I feel that a lot of folks that they're unaware of the stretch option and how they can have a legacy for their children, grandchildren, or any non-spouse. So what I would recommend is that since we're taking and we're talking about some of the mistakes when it comes to receiving your distributions, I like to share with our audience how they can have a complimentary, consultation, and receive a copy of the top 10 IRA mistakes that we have here by David Royer, and which I was endorsed. You can go to justaskfreeman.com. We could schedule for you a complimentary consultation and get a free copy of this book, because it's vital to understand these mistakes when it comes to distributions from your IRA or your qualified plans, and how to navigate around some of the costly tax errors and mistakes, I should say, tax mistakes when it comes to these taxes in your distribution of your qualified plans. Well, let's look at mistake number 3.
Mistake number 3 is not properly designating beneficiaries, and these are common mistakes. You know, one is taking too much too fast. Think about a young person who inherits this large amount of money. They've never dealt with money.
Right.
And all of a sudden they got all this money and they don't know what to do with it. Then sometimes they do take too much too fast and don't know how to make it stretch. So.
And usually what happens, if a person is not used to saving money, all right, here's what happens. They get this large sum of monies. Usually they squander those funds within 9 months to 17 months. That is, those funds were put aside and set aside for the beneficiaries to have a lifetime income, to basically improve their financial lot. Another common mistake, no contingency plan. Well, what that means is that when you designate your beneficiaries, all right, it may be that you just have a primary beneficiary. You need a contingent beneficiary as well. Suppose the IRA owner has a spouse and both die. All right. Usually, one of the spouses designate each other per se as a primary. But if there's no contingent, those funds can end up in probate. So it's best to designate the primary and then have a contingent beneficiary as well. And if they're minors, or if they're adult children or whomever, if they're non-spouses, of course, make sure that they understand the stretch. And I recommend that you talk to your loved ones, okay, in which you wish to bequeath these monies.
And you know, another mistake is using a will to name your beneficiary.
You know, a lot of people want to use a will. They say, well, I have my beneficiaries, they are designated by what's in that will. Well, wrong. Here's the deal. When you fill out or complete the paperwork, that is the IRA document, and you designate your beneficiaries, Carol, that trumps the beneficiaries in that will. So you got to understand, name your beneficiaries and make sure that you have a copy of the beneficiary form. Again, it trumps any beneficiaries that you've designated in a will. Now, not keeping your beneficiary documents up to date. This is a common mistake, and that is why each and every year for our clients, we have an annual review, okay? What can happen is, suppose there was a divorce, or there's one of our clients, of course, maybe remarried, all right? Now, there's an upsurge, I should say, or a surge in blended families. Now, what can happen is, suppose the IRA owner is divorced, marries again, had designated the beneficiaries with the first spouse, okay? Then, of course, the IRA owner suppose he dies or she dies. What can happen is that if there's the beneficiary form, that document has not been updated, there's a possibility of losing the funds. The children from the first marriage that you might have designated as a beneficiary may lose their inheritance. Okay, so it's important to have an update on those documents annually. Another problem, mistake can happen. A designated beneficiary, like I said, could die, or a new potential beneficiary is born. So that can cause a lot of different problems. And I go back to keeping that beneficiary document up to date. Something else too, a common mistake. One of your beneficiaries maybe is financially well off, or the other beneficiary or a beneficiary becomes financially indigent. The benevolence falls into place when it comes to your legacy from this, or the funds from the IRA, is that it might be that you designate a higher percentage of the legacy or the IRA, all right, to the one who has financial difficulty, and then a smaller percentage to the beneficiary who's better off or financially well off. The last common mistake that we want to talk about, Carolyn, is a beneficiary that has a spendthrift problem. Okay, all right. Well, you can complete the beneficiary form such that there is a restriction on the distribution from that IRA. 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25 years. And you can have that distribution come out, or you've designated the time when the spendthrift take the distribution, and you could spread it out. When you're the IRA owner, you can do a lot with beneficiaries. I've had clients come and they talk to me and they say things like, well, you know, one of my sons doesn't act right. I always say, you know your children better than I do. He would receive these funds and it'd be gone in a month. Well, of course, if you know that son or you know that daughter or whomever you wish to leave your funds would squander those funds. Again, the document, that is, having your beneficiary document up to date such that you dictate how these funds will be distributed to the individual who is a spendthrift. Okay, you have control over that.